when we're confronted with speech we don't agree with, the remedy to be applied is more speech, not enforced silence.
This is the Supreme Court.
It seems like the courts are more and more willing to give freedom
and freedom of speech. I got a freedom of speech to put them toilets anywhere I want to put them toilets. And the messages on them toilets is my freedom of speech, exposing the corruption under Governor O'Malley. When I put them toilets out, I am not breaking the law. I am enforcing the Constitution.
Free speech, right? You have a right to free speech that's quite broad. Quite broad. So lots of things you can say, much things you can't.
I want to try to make this concrete. That's a theater. It's a big theater. And let's imagine that it was filled with people. Now,
this is what Bernstein and Schellenberger did. Pay attention to this.
Falsely shouting fire is not protected. If there really is a fire, you can tell it's a fire.
How about if I run in and yell, "This movie sucks"?
First Amendment protects opinion, and yet when
you can't go into a crowded theater and yell fire if there's not a fire. If there's a fire, you can yell fire.
Okay.
On February the 7th, 2011, Schellenberger called that toilet a bomb, so Schellenberger should have been charged with a bomb threat. I left that toilet on February the 6th, and there was nothing that I said. That toilet spoke for itself. So listen to the Supreme Court and your right to freedom of speech.
Whether you're a newspaper or whether you are a corporation or whether you're a trade union, that is a restriction on the ability to speak. And on that, I think the Supreme Court is quite correct.
You know, you were born in the Soviet Union, and one of the interesting things we found out is that the Soviet Union had a Bill of Rights, which everybody ignored. Here in America, it works. More or less, but man, it works. Why?
Throughout American history, there's been a combination of a culture that cares about liberty and democracy, and a structure that is conducive to liberty and democracy. The provisions for democracy and for elections in the Constitution wouldn't mean much if you weren't free to argue. Democracy is hard to have happen without freedom of speech.
So that's democracy in action.
Democracy in action means that I got a right to run for office. That means that I got a right to run for the office of Lieutenant Governor and to expose the corruption. I got a right to freedom of my speech. I got a right to my property. I got the Bill of Rights that's going to expose the government for who and what they are. If you don't protect my rights, then our government doesn't exist. And President Obama is in the middle of this. He knows about the prison industry. He is directly tied to this, and he can't run from this. As much as I like him, I dislike the fact that he's leaving our people out here in the position that they leaving them in. I dislike him because he said he gave us the audacity of hope, and in that hope, all we got is despair. And the audacity of hope, he left us hanging out to dry.
The Westboro Baptist, they are now, I think I can say, among the most hated and reviled people in the country. But now, when they show up, there are counter-protesters, there are phalanxes.
I protested against the Westboro Baptist Church when they came to Towson, Maryland. All right?
Correct.
So if the Westboro Baptist Church can get away with it and protest, that toilet get just as much respect as the Westboro Baptist Church.
It seems to me.
And we're going to talk about freedoms. I will be contacting PBS to get my program on PBS. We're going to put Baltimore on there. The greater good of the community versus the greed of the government.
This was the last fight.
And there is not going to be the last fight. We got much more fighting to do. I'm a veteran of these United States of America. I serve my country to defend the Constitution, and I will not be denied my rights under the Constitution.